Welcome back to the GTN show.
Oh yeah. Are you interested in qualifying for the Ironman or Ironman 70.3 World Champs in 2026? We're going to want to watch this show.
Oh, most certainly, because Ironman have just announced their new and updated age group slot allocation system, and it really is quite an overhaul. We're going to be doing our best to talk you through it and explaining how that works.
Yeah, we're also going to be unpacking all the performances and the chaos from this weekend's racing, in particular Ironman Frankfurt.
Yeah, on top of that, we've got Faith Kipyegon's breaking 4 attempt, some interesting tech we saw from Nike at the Western States 100, and a postponement of the T100 Las Vegas.
Well, some big news has landed today. News that affects you. If you're hoping to qualify for the Ironman or Ironman 70.3 World Championships in 2026 and onwards, Ironman has completely overhauled their age group qualification system with a new performance-based age group system, which essentially generates age-graded finish times to reward the most competitive amateur triathletes.
Yeah, now it's important to know that this applies for both the Ironman and the Ironman 70.3 World Championships, but there are also some slight differences. So we're going to do our best to explain this as easily as possible for you guys here.
So firstly, for both Ironman and Ironman 70.3 qualifying events, there will be an allocated number of age group qualification slots. Now, the winner of each age group, both men and women, will automatically earn a qualifying slot. If that slot is not taken, either the athlete's pre-qualified somewhere else or just simply doesn't want the slot, then it'll roll down to the second place finisher and then the third.
Yeah, but if that automatic qualifying slot is not taken by any of the top 3 finishers, that slot will be added to the performance pool of qualifying slots offered to the next most competitive athletes at the event. Important to note that this may not be the same age group or the same gender.
Yeah, that bit probably surprised you, and it surprised us. Now, all additional slots allocated at an event, plus any carried over that weren't taken by the top 3, will be offered to the most competitive athletes at the event. Of course, you can't just compare times as they're different between each age group and obviously each gender. So Ironman has worked hard to develop a new age-graded system. So we're going to have a crack at explaining this. Let's go for it.
Okay, well, first up, let's look at the Ironman World Championships qualification, which is different and a little more complicated than the 70.3 World. So Ironman have taken the top 20% of each age group from the previous 5 years, or the 5 editions at Kona, and averaged this. This results in essentially a fastest finisher time, or benchmark, per age group and gender, something that they are then calling the Kona standards. This is what you need to sort of remember, the Kona standard. And of course, it will naturally evolve as it's using data on a rolling basis from the most recent 5 Konas.
Yeah, but to allow age groups and genders to be compared together within this same pool, they will also identify the fastest age group, which in this case for Kona or the Ironman World Championships happens to be the men's 30 to 34 age group. Now, all age group benchmark times are then compared to this in order to generate a relative ratio. So it's quite a lot of information, isn't it? This then allows Ironman to normalise times from an event, meaning times can be compared not just across age groups, but actually also across genders as well.
Yeah, it's quite exciting, isn't it? But it might initially sound like a lot of maths, but we don't need to worry too much about how we're actually going to get there. It's that Kona standard we talked about for each age group and each gender that I think you guys are going to be most interested in. And Ironman has actually kind of shared an example, which I think is going to help you, and it definitely helped us understand this a little bit better.
Yeah, so with the 30 to 34 male being the benchmark, so to speak, that sits at 1.000. And then every other age group and gender has a ratio relative to this. And this is, as I said, what Ironman are calling normalised age grading.
So basically, after an Ironman race, you'll have your finish time and then your age-graded finish time, as shown with this example. So Anne is 42 and she finishes Ironman Kalmar in 9:19:51, which gives her an age-graded finish time of 8:07:26, and that is as a result of applying the Kona standard of 0.87. That's how they come up with that. So if you look back at the table that we just shared. Now, if you then look at John, who's 43 and finishes Ironman Kalmar in 8:50:31, that gives him an age-graded time of 33.42 because his Kona standard is different. It's 0.9683. Don't worry about the decimals here. But basically, at the end of this, Anne would rank above John in the age-graded rankings due to her age-graded time being 8:07.26, faster than John's, which is an 8:33.42.
It's quite cool, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the amount of slots in the performance pool will depend on, obviously, how many overall slots have been awarded to a race and whether any of the automatic qualification slots in that top 3 were not taken and then bumped down to the performance pool.
Yeah, so the athletes who basically are the most competitive on race day relative to their age group standard will rank the highest. I think that's important. And the slots from the performance pool will then be offered to those athletes using a first to accept policy. And if an athlete doesn't want to accept their world champ slot, this just rolls down that list and it continues to do so until all the slots have been taken.
Phew, I hope you're still with us. We've obviously had a bit of a head start in digesting all of this. But if I'm honest, still getting my head around it a lot. Anyway, you will, however, be pleased to hear that the 70.3 world qualification process is similar, but also a little simpler.
Yeah, so like the Kona qualification, a 70.3 world slot is awarded to the top finisher in each age group. If not taken, it then gets off to second and then down to third. The roll down stops at third. And if someone doesn't accept that place, it goes into what they're calling that performance pool of that specific gender.
Oh, yeah. So this is where the difference comes. Our 70.3 Worlds is a separate day of racing for both the men and the women. The qualification also remains separate too. So each race will have equal allocated slots split between both the men and the women.
Yeah, so with that in mind, the age-graded finish times have been calculated from the last 5 years or the last 5 editions of World Champs, again, taking the top 20%. And this they're calling the 70.3 standard, and it's separate for men and women. And I think this table helps actually just to make it a little bit clearer.
Helped me a lot, yeah. Now, interestingly, in this case, you'll see that it's actually the 18 to 24 age group for the men and the 25 to 29 age group for the women that are the fastest. But don't get too hung up on that. It's the number next to your age group that counts.
Yeah, it is. Well, let's take another example that Ironman have provided, which will show us how it might work for 2 women in different age groups competing for a qualification slot in the performance pool. So Laura is 38. She finished 70.3 G long in 7:29.01, which gives her an age-graded finish time of 7:13.4 with the Ironman 70.3 standard of 0.96, etc. Janine is 51. She finishes Ironman 70.3 G long in 8 hours 28, which gives her an age-graded finish time of 7 hours 13 and 11 seconds. Therefore, Janine would rank above Laura in the age-graded rankings due to her age-graded time of 7:13.11, being faster than Laura's age-graded finish time of 7:13.4.
Actually came down to a nail-biting
It
finish
did,
there, really, didn't
Who
it?
would have known?
Right, that is a lot to digest, so we're actually going to just leave it there for today. I think, well, I know we're going to be discussing this topic further and share more of our thoughts, probably in next week's show once you guys have also had a chance to absorb this. Maybe give us your own feedback. So yeah, do get involved in the comment section down below. And if you've got any questions that haven't been answered, also share them and we'll try and get back to you with them or find out what those answers are from Ironman themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this, I mean, overall it's exciting news, isn't it? It's a massive step forwards for our sport, making the World Championship qualification performance-based as opposed to being related to how many competitors are in each age group. And I just think it can only be positive. As to how it unfolds with the numbers in each age group and gender, only time is going to tell. And I guess that we'll get the answer when we're looking at that pier in Kona in October 2026.
Well, on with the rest of the show, and a bit of an update from T100. They have postponed/cancelled their T100 race in Las Vegas that was meant to take place at the end of October. Yeah,
well, they have actually sort of come up with a solution because they've got those 9 races that they've committed to. So they are moving it to Australia the week earlier. It's actually going to be part of the World Triathlon Championships on the 18th with the finals, which is quite major. I mean, moving the weekend, but also moving it from another continent. At least it's still in there. They're keeping their allocation of their 9 races.
Yeah, exactly. So the Las Vegas race, they are offering for any age groupers that had entered the event full refunds. It is still due to take place now just in 2026. And they say the reason for them postponing the event is that they were working on improving the course, trying to extend it out into sort of a national park area and for the age groupers, not just for the pros. And they've just resulted, it hasn't been sorted in time, or for whatever reason, they've just decided, actually, it's for the best, we're going to postpone it. and relocate the race.
I mean, they've obviously got a very good relationship with World Triathlon to be able to just put a new race on only a few months out. So, yeah, lucky there, I guess. But not sure how many people will be changing their entry from Las Vegas to Wollongong. But anyway, we'll see.
Moving on then, I know you tuned in for this. It was very exciting. The breaking 4 attempt with Faith Kipyegon. Whoa, that was cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was definitely one that was in all of our diaries, wasn't it, to sit and watch. I don't know how many of you guys watched it. I had goosebumps. Even once we realised, I presume you've seen it by now, she didn't go under 4 hours. It was still...
4 minutes. 4 hours would be very slow.
Even I can do that one. She didn't make it under 4 minutes, but it was still, well, a PB and I guess an unofficial world record by over a second. But even once you realise after sort of a couple of laps, you probably, unless she had some amazing negative split, wasn't going to make it. It was still just very cool to watch. And
it was.
All of the technology which we talked about on last week's show, but also the sort of the system that they had in place with the pacers and I think something new to running, maybe not so new to triathlon, but the importance of having someone behind you. Because to start with, I saw, obviously we saw 2 other women along with the pacers and they were running behind and I was like, are they just there for sort of display? But very much it was all part of the tactics.
It was really cool. I mean, I was actually going through the airport at the time, boarding a flight, and I just couldn't take my eyes off this race that was unfolding and all the build-up hype was fantastic. But as you say, they didn't really disclose too much around kind of the drafting and how they were going to utilise other athletes in there. And it was really interesting to see it unfold. So they had, as you say, athletes running behind. So they're sort of taking a lot of, I guess, knowledge from the cycling world and motorsport world, in which you sort of have this lower area of pressure by having someone behind. So it takes a little bit of that drag effect off that athlete in front. Whether that works so much for a runner with the kind of the gap and the speed they're travelling at, I'm not so sure. And I've seen a few people kind of picking flaws or holes in the theory here and saying they've sort of just taken all this information but not really tested it very well. But, I mean, nonetheless, this was an amazing spectacle. I had a great time watching it. And I mean, she still ran essentially a world record, an unofficial world record. Of course, this can't stand because, well, for starters, she was using like other athletes to pace and also use the drafting. The shoes, whilst they are theoretically
inside the regulations,
the regulations, they haven't been signed off and legal. And she had both female and male pacers.
And I think you actually have to have 3 other people apparently racing, like in an official capacity. So there's a lot of, but it wasn't about that. It was about sort of, I guess, the breaking barriers. I hate that phrase, but that's what it was, wasn't it? And inspiring. And I think, and especially the fact she's a mum, you forget that as well. It's like madness.
And of course, we saw Kipchoge doing his breaking tour in ES 159. It was fantastic. I mean, again, that was an amazing spectacle. So it was fantastic to see a female athlete also getting a shot at this and all the technology and everything being thrown at that. I mean, looking at the numbers, so this is quite interesting. So Kipchoge had to make a 1.6% improvement to break 2 hours. Whereas for Faith, she had to make a 3% improvement.
That's huge, isn't it?
Over a mile. That's massive. Yeah, so like I saw someone say, this isn't just a marginal gain, this is a quantum leap to try and achieve that. But I love it. They threw everything at it and, as I say, fantastic.
Well, how many years do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know. I think we're probably still a couple of years off at least, but
let's
we'll see.
But it's very cool, isn't it?
Notable actually, so one of the pacers, athletes involved in this with her was Georgia Bell, who we've spoken about on the show before. She is actually a duathlete, a world champion in duathlon, but also an Olympic medalist in running, a phenomenal athlete, and we've seen her obviously out on a bike. She's now actually formed a partnership with Canyon, which is quite cool.
It's very cool. I mean, she has been open that her training, right up to the Olympics and now beyond, that she incorporates a lot of cycling just to get that extra endurance, those miles, and because she just enjoys it. And she's now sort of got this formal partnership with them, which I think is really sort of properly saying, like, you know, she's still in the cycling world and maybe we'll see her back in duathlon. I know, I don't think anyone in her age group would welcome her back because she's going to smash that age group, but the rest of us would love to see Georgia Bell.
Wonder what swimming's like.
Who knows?
Also, talking of cycling, Maya Kingma from the WTCS Racing Triathlon has actually announced that she is switching over to pro cycling. She is joining the EF Education pro cycling team, women's team, which, again, an amazing shift. And
she's been to 2 Olympics. She's been to numerous world championships. championships, and now she's only 29. She's like, oh, need new challenges. Want to try something else? I'm like,
And then we've also got an athlete coming the other way, Greg Van Avermaet, who, well, ex-pro cyclist now, was taking part in Ironman 70.3 Nice at the weekend and won his age group, second age group overall, and also kind of in amongst the pro finishing times. It was really quite impressive. I don't know whether he took his world championship spot, but let me give you his splits. 33.25 swim, a 2.24 bike, which placed him 13th overall, even amongst the pros, and a 1.23 run.
Yeah.
That's not bad for an ex-pro cyclist, isn't it?
That's not, because we so often have high expectations and then it's sort of, they can bike really well, but the rest doesn't come together. But it sounds like the fact that he didn't win the bike leg means he paced it just really well.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world of triathlon.
And now for What the Tech. Also, we had Western States this weekend.
We did, yes. That one of the biggest trail races out there in America, the 100 miler, and there were some big names racing and some obviously supporting. And we also spotted some tech coming out from there. But first, the results. So the women's race was won by Abby Hall, just her second appearance, which was pretty impressive in 16 hours 37. Fuzhou Zhang second and Marianne Hogan third in the women's race. And the men's race was the second fastest time ever. It was good conditions, but I hear it was very hot. It was Caleb Olsen on just his second appearance there, won it. Chris Myers second. Kilian Jornet, your favourite, he was third, but it was close. When you think of the time they're racing, Caleb was 14:11, Chris Myers 14:17, Kilian Jornet 14 hours 19. So over 100 miles, that's close. But the tech side of things that we did spot that excites me, Mark, this weird outfit on Caleb Olsen. I was looking at some of his posts and I was first caught by the very cute picture of his baby. We have to just give that a little bit of airtime.
Yeah, 7 weeks old.
Yeah, I know, a father just 7 weeks ago, and the fact he's then gone and won Western States, I mean, that's mad in itself. So's his outfit. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, no, obviously amazing him stood there with his baby, but you can't help but be distracted by the garments he's wearing. Yeah, it's interesting. So we had a little look into this. So it's obviously a Nike development, and a few athletes at Western States had this, but it's almost like a knitted vest sort of style, like kind of design, lots of holes.
It's like an old cycling, like you used to wear under to keep cool.
Yeah, so I've had a little
jersey.
Look around to try and get some details. There's very little on it at the moment. Obviously, people are saying that obviously, as you've mentioned, the conditions there, it gets incredibly hot, 38 degrees Celsius plus, and yeah, so basically what people are kind of assuming with this, not only the airflow through it, but the garment, when you sort of get it wet, it helps with the cooling and the evaporating of sweat. Beyond that, I don't really know that.
And there's the weird gaps and the elbow. It does look like something you might see on a Stella McCartney catwalk when she sort of does her sport editions of fashion meeting tennis. That's like it was spring to mind with me.
I don't know. It almost looks like it would be
annoying.
Chafe or be annoying, but I don't know. It kind of looks quite cool at the same time. It's weird, isn't it?
Quite cool.
It's got a gap around the inside of the
elbow, and then the armpit. We all like to air the armpits when we're hot. It is bizarre. But I do, this time of year, I do sometimes wear like a seersucker shirt, and I find that that's really quite cool. So maybe it's like something similar to that.
Can't imagine
not seersucker, that's not the right word.
Imagine if our tri-suits start having the holes in
it's just, in the sweaty areas. Maybe not. Let's not picture that.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. On to race news now, and all eyes were on Ironman Frankfurt as it had a stellar lineup, didn't it? It was a men's only race. It was a European Championships, and we had on that start line the likes of Magnus Ditlev, Patrick Lang, Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Eden. I mean, I could go on. I think we should dive into the race, and there was so much drama. I've been catching up on it still, and I know you're a little bit ahead of me on this. So lead us out, Mark.
Yeah, I was following a number of events over the weekend, but I was dipping in and out of this one, and it was chaotic. Andreas Salversberg led the swim out, along with a few others, Kasper Stepniak, Jonas Schomburg and Ben Canute. And then all the other big names mostly were sort of like 2 minutes or so behind. Jonas Schomburg, impressively, really put the hammer down early on the bike and actually opened up about a 2 minute gap. And then this is where the chaos started. His TT pass basically came off. Not just a little bit wobbly, like the full thing came off. So then he obviously had to stop at the next mechanical station, fix them up. got back on, got riding, and the next thing we see is he's actually removed the TT bars and he's riding just with a base bar, which of course he has the brakes, he's got the gears on the bull horns, but there is a massive riser sticking up, and it was a tall riser. So Ironman actually, and probably quite rightly so,
I think that was the right
made
call.
the call and said, mate, you've got to stop, that isn't safe. So fair enough, and unfortunate for him because he was going really well. Kieran Linders, who actually was runner-up last year, had a phenomenal race there last year, lost all his fuel and nutrition early on, so bummer for him, and then subsequently then dropped out. Christian Hogenhaug, what an amazing day for him. He was riding so well. So he then took the lead on the bike. By halfway, he had 3 minutes on the rest of the field, and then by T2, he had over 8.5 minutes on the rest of the field.
As well.
When you think you got Magnus Ditlev and people in there. And then onto the run, this is where the drama really kicked off. So Patrick Lange was actually one of the first to serve a penalty here, apparently for some sort of swim skin violation. I haven't really been able to dig into exactly what went on here. Someone said he didn't remove it, but then I've seen the bike footage and he's definitely not. So I don't know what happened.
And also, you'd think that there might be some sort of mini waiver for a German in Germany, but obviously not.
Hogenhaug was actually also given a 60-second penalty for outside assistance, and I felt this one was really unfair. I just saw the drone footage. Someone clearly ran less than 10 metres.
Yeah, it was literally a few steps, wasn't it?
Shouted clearly a split to him, or well done, keep going, and that was it, because that's technically outside coaching assistance. And then Ditlev, this is the big one, was disqualified for what I understand is littering. So he was taking on all his fuel through an aid station and shoving it down his tri-suit, and I presume accidentally dropped something outside of the litter zone, and then the ref on the bike just literally came straight up and went, disqualified. And understandably, sort of in the heat of the moment, and literally the heat of Frankfurt at the time, probably running, 3:45 per K, Magnus said some rather choice words back to the referee. But thankfully kept running, because later on in the race, Ironman basically withdrew that disqualification so he could carry on racing. Subsequently, he did sort of fall apart on the run, but anyway.
You're going to lose your head a bit, aren't you, if you've been disqualified?
Yeah, back to the race though, Christian Blumenfeld and Kasper Stornes were just absolutely ploughing through the field, running so well. They passed it around halfway. Blumenfeld kept pushing and actually dropped Stornes and seemed to be on for a sub 2:30 marathon. He didn't quite get that. He got 2:30.59, but in doing so took the lead, took the win. Hogenhaug took second, Stornes in third, and just a phenomenal and crazy race.
And what a day for Norway, because Gustav Iden was back in fourth place, and his post, he just said, delighted to be up there racing, and only with his countrymen again, and those guys are just incredible. 7 hours 25.
And we probably should, as a previous Ironman World Champion, Patrick Lange, or the Ironman World Champion of current, he placed 7th actually, although coming off the bike 13 minutes down, so not the day I'm sure he was hoping for. But,
with a 2:39 run with Christian, that's 9 minutes slower than Christian.
Magnus in 8th, Cam in 9th, so...
And Cam did qualify through that one as well. I didn't realise that he was on a mission for getting his Kona slot, because it feels like he's raced so many, but he's had so many DQs and things go wrong, so it's cool that we know we'll see Cam racing in Nice.
We also had the long distance world championships, the World Triathlon long distance world champ in Pontevedra this weekend, which is a slightly obscure distance, isn't it?
3K swim, 120k bike, followed by a 30k run. So the times don't really mean that much, but Marjolaine Pierre took the win there, and I think she was delighted with that. She was just posting how proud she was to be racing back in the French colours, which was very cool. She had a very cool suit made up for her. And Antonio Benito Lopez won the men's race there.
We also had Challenge Volsci this weekend, so Laura Janssen took the win there, and Thibet Keindl, I've probably pronounced that very badly, took the win on the men's side.
And then there was also, it was the final weekend for the chance to qualify for 70.3 World Championships, both for age groupers and for pros. And I was really excited to see Jess Limont on the start list. She made a sort of quite a bold statement that it was a relatively late decision, I think, but she wanted to see if she could get that slot. And she most certainly did. She dominated that performance, won the swim, won overall with a time of 4 hours 39.54 on what looked like quite a tough course. Also on a mission to get his slot was Martin van Riel. And it was, all a bit crazy to suddenly see these amazing performances, but he went there and comfortably qualified as well and took the overall win to get his slot.
Yeah, and of course we've got some big racing coming up this weekend. Notably, we've got Challenge Roth. We are actually, as GTN, heading out there. We are filming loads of videos, and also James is taking part in the event himself.
Exactly. GTN on the start line.
Yeah, as a previous winner himself. So we're going to be filming him racing, as well as lots of other things going on there. So stay tuned. We've got some really cool stuff happening there. And if you're going to Challenge Rock, do give us a shout, because we are going to be filming a lot of age group stuff as well whilst we're there. So I'd love to include you in that. And also we've got Ironman 70.3 Sweden. So some fun racing to chat through next week. And now rolling on to Tri-Spy. James was pretty tough with the guys last week with this choice.
I think we've been too easy, and now we've maybe slightly overshot the mark in the other direction with the scale of this one.
I'm normally fairly good at this, I'd say.
I'm not going to comment. I can't really add to that because I'm not.
I had no idea on this one. Right. We only actually had a couple of comments because it was so hard. So first one from Ivan Nano said, duh, it's obvious, that's me on the podium and celebrating about 10 seconds before I wake up. But a serious answer from Georges Gasco, and he was right, and probably the only person to actually get
off.
Gregory Barnaby at Ironman Frankfurt. And it is Gregory Barnaby at Ironman Frankfurt from last year, where he placed third behind Kieran Linders and Christian Blumenthal.
I mean, even if you were there, even if you've seen the photo, like in passing, how would you? There's got to be, maybe it's the logo in the background or something of the...
Yeah, maybe we gave away too much there. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that is what it is. That's one of the sponsors of Ironman. Yeah, that is good. That's impressive. Right, well, this week, do your best. Here's your photo.
Good luck. Say what?
Okay, let's look through some of the comments from this past week. First one from Galen Keller. This is under one of my Eurobike tech videos. So last week I head out to Germany to Eurobike, which is essentially the world's largest cycling trade fair, and searched for all sorts of triathlon tech, and there was
just in heaven, weren't you?
Good stuff. And Galen Keller said, with the UCI banning all my equipment, clearly a cyclist, looks like I'm going to have to switch to triathlon. Keep the cool tech coming. I think that's a great thing about triathlon. We have fewer rules and regulations, and we just innovate.
Yeah.
Some cool stuff.
Exactly. That's why you love keeping on with all that tech stuff. Also, my video went out over the weekend from 70.3 Elsinore when I was trying to qualify for Worlds. And you guys have been so nice in the comments. Literally really lovely. But there's been a few sort of themes, quite a few women who've watched it and just sort of felt that motivation of seeing another woman, which I think is really cool. I've definitely been motivated by watching pros recently who've had babies. We've got Kenzie McKenzie saying super inspiring and awesome to hear the debrief and just about my thoughts, and saying comforting to know that others think them too as another female racer, but also the guys relating to it too, because I think we often don't talk about like what's going on in our minds. And before this race, I wasn't in a necessarily good headspace, and I was just quite open about it. So if you haven't watched it, go and take a look. But also, some of you are relating to me as an ex-pro. I was never a pro in triathlon, never pretend to be, but I'm going to take that as a compliment. But yeah, someone here, we had Dave Preston saying, so cool that triathlon industry pros have the same emotions during a race as the rest of us when we qualify. We do. We don't necessarily always talk about it. Lambert also just says, congrats, and fascinating to see an ex-pro going through the same emotions and doubts we all have pre and during the race. But hey, it's worth it at the end of the race, isn't it? So we're all with you, basically.
Yeah, it's a fantastic video, so if you haven't checked it out already, please do so. And the really cool thing is now obviously the journey is only just starting, really, without giving away too much, but we're now going to be documenting your journey to the 70.3 Worlds, and everything that you're going to do in terms of prep. So follow along.
No pressure.
But that's all for the show this week. If you enjoyed it, please do get a thumbs up, give it a like. We've got a pretty fun video coming this weekend, which I think you'll enjoy. It's a presenter race. We are dropped in a random location around Bath separately, and then we race back.
What could go wrong?
James, who's not from round here, had a very fun day out, didn't he? But stay tuned for that.